Let me guess why you're here. You're probably just like one of the other thousands of Rocket League players who get on the game and mainly grind twos because that's what they're used to. You avoid playing 1v1 because it's too hard and your mistakes get punished too often.
I'm about to punch my monitor, bro. I physically cannot play the game right now.
I mean because it's just about who has better luck on the kickoff. It's trash game mode, of course.
Oh my god.
And you avoid playing 3v3 because it's too cluttered and there's not enough space on the field.
This is such a weird game. I'm so confused in this game, I'm not gonna lie. Jesus, that was not a fun game.
While the former statement might be true, the latter doesn't have to be. With proper rotations, 3v3 can be the most satisfying, rewarding, and fun game mode out of the big three, enabling high-speed gameplay, satisfying team plays, miraculous 1v2 or 1v3 plays, and disrespectful mind games. In order for this to happen though, it's important that everyone understands their role at any given moment, which evidently a lot of people don't. So with that said, let's go over some of the bare basic fundamentals of 3v3, first man, second man, and third man roles, how you end up in this role, and what's expected of you when you find yourself there. It's a little self-explanatory, but these are just labels given the players to represent the order of which they play the ball, whether it be on offense or defense. Starting from the first man's perspective, the first man's role is to advance the ball downfield. Let's take an example from a real in-game scenario stemming from the kickoff, because this is a situation that everyone's going to find themselves in. Kickoff happens to start the sequence off, and the Orchard team finds themselves in possession of the ball after it shoots off the sidewall, and Monkey Moon becomes the first man in developing play for his team because he's the only player who can play the ball in this moment, thus initiating their offensive push. The first man's role is very important on offense because they're the ones in control of the play and who start off a good play that continues the offense or a bad play that turns the ball over to the defense. Your job is to make a play that facilitates further and continual offensive pressure so that you can break down your opponent's defense until a scoring opportunity emerges. This can be done in a number of ways depending on the situation you find yourself in, such as with a pass to your teammate which will put your opponent's head on a swivel and throw off their positioning, by individually outplaying multiple players with an advanced display of mechanics, by 50-50ing the ball in a favorable way, or by just hitting the ball in an awkward position for your opponents that gives your team time to constrict down on the defense. Here we see that Monkey Moon actually opts for that last option. It may seem like Monkey Moon's trying to shoot this ball, but a world champion level player such as himself knows that shooting in this position is not going to net him a goal, and it's easily going to be saved by his opponents and the possession will be turned over to the defense. So what he does here is actually hit the ball just over the crossbar of the net, which is an extremely awkward and difficult to deal with touch for the defending team because it's actually so close to going into the net that it forces Relating Wave to jump and react purely because of how hard it is to tell if it's going in or not. If the ball was high off of the backboard, Relating Wave would be much more comfortable with not going up for the ball and leaving it for a teammate like Cash who's turning towards the net after grabbing his corner boost. This low bounce off of the backboard also means that Relating Wave has to expect a follow-up shot from Seiko to be much faster than if the shot was coming from high up in the air off of the backboard. Thus, the touch from Monkey Moon was good enough that it forces a bad touch out of Relating Wave that allows his team to start building offensive pressure. If we continue to focus on Monkey Moon's perspective throughout this explanation of the different roles, I think things will make the most sense. So once Monkey Moon no longer has control of the play, his role as first man is now over and he rotates to become the new third man for the team, while his teammates shift and fill the roles of the new first and second man. Monkey Moon, now third man, has a new role for his team. The third man's job is to fill the relevant spaces that the first and second man can't cover themselves. This is a very analytical but also experience-driven role, which is why a lot of people struggle to play it well in online games such as in ranked. While the first man's trying to create a scoring opportunity or to break down the defense as mentioned previously, with the second man waiting for his opportunity to be next on the ball, the third man has to read the entire field and the positioning of his teammates and the opponents to determine what area of the field is or isn't worth occupying. They have to know what outcome of the developing play the second man can or can't deal with, and position for the latter in order to make sure their team maintains the offense. And they have to do all of this while also making sure they're in a spot where they can defend a long shot attempt or a quick transition play on their net. Effortlessly, Monkey Moon does just this. Reading Ixo's approach to the ball, the angle he has on it, the speed he's approaching with, and thus instantly knowing all the possible places Ixo can put this ball. If the ball travels to the left or slightly forward, Monkey Moon knows that Extra has it covered. But if the ball flies upward into the ceiling and down, or out to the right, Monkey Moon's in a perfect position to jump up and have the next touch on the ball. To perfectly round out his positioning here, there's no touch that Ixo can get on the ball here towards the net that Monkey Moon couldn't turn around and have the next touch on. Now notice the almost instantaneous shuffling of roles going on for the orange team. Seiko, who was just first man, is on his rotation out to become third man. This is the signal to Monkey Moon that he can now advance into the offensive play, knowing he has a new third man behind him. Okay, honestly, making this video, I can see why a lot of you struggle to play 3v3 effectively. Each role has a lot that they have to do right in order for every sequence to go right. But trust me, as someone who's been playing this game for like over 5 years, probably like 6 years, something like that, this video will put you on the right track to understanding how to play 3v3 at the highest level. So if you're learning something or you like the video, smash that like button for me and subscribe. As second man, I really like to think of this role as being a shark in the water, waiting to pounce on the right opportunity. Your role is threefold: to be in position to shoot off of an opportunity afforded by the first man, to understand when a shot isn't worth it, and to instantly become the new first man as mentioned previously, making a play to instead maintain your offense. And thirdly, to understand when a ball will be better left for the third man behind you, backing you up. The last thing I just mentioned there is specifically why I like to think of the second man role as being a shark in the water. Because the second man has the unique role that oftentimes doesn't rotate and change roles. If a ball is better suited for the third man to go for, then the third man should go for that ball and the second man should let him. Assuming the first man is rotating out to become the new third man, of course. With the third man becoming the new first man, and the first man becoming the new third man, that leaves the second man to stay lurking in their opportunistic positioning, like a shark or like a lion, pouncing, striking when the time is right. On defense, these roles still exist. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking that first man, second man, and third man roles are only on offense, and that on defense, that's just all thrown out the window, and the goal is just to hit the ball as far away from the net as fast as possible. The first man on defense has two main objectives. In order, their play would look like this. First, challenge the first man of the opposing team. Now, it isn't as simple as that. There is a right way and a wrong way to do this. As the first man on defense, the most important part of your role is to dispossess the opposing first man. Whether that be by throwing in a convincing fake challenge, drive challenge, or real challenge, you have to force the opposing player to play the ball past you in a way that creates a moment where they no longer have possession of the ball. So that way your teammate behind you essentially has a free touch on that ball. Keep in mind, many times if you're challenging an opposing first man who's in the air, it's a lot harder to successfully knock the ball away from them simply because of how many options they have, such as using a flip reset or an air dribble. And in this case, if you're not able to play the ball, you have to at least get a bump on the player. Again, dispossessing them and shutting down their solo play. If the first man fails to dispossess the opposing player, this is essentially a worst case scenario situation. And if you find yourself in this situation, pay attention to how bad of a spot you're in, because this means that one of your players has been taken out of the play without any benefit to the team, and the offense is now pushing at you with a numbers advantage, still fully in control of the play, with the ability to send someone for a demo or a bump and make the numbers advantage even greater. And at this point, one singular mistake by the players left on defense essentially spells a goal. Okay, now that I've scared you, moving on. The second job of the first man on defense is to make themselves a passing option upfield after they successfully executed on the previous step. One of the fastest and deadliest ways and most common ways to transition from defense to offense is with what's called an outlet pass. After the first man has successfully given the player behind them a free touch on the ball, they should quickly recognize if one of their teammates behind them has the ability to hit the ball upfield towards them as a pass. If the pass isn't available though, the first man has to recognize that and rotate back to become the new third man. Now, as we mentioned previously, as the second man on defense, you want to be positioned behind the first man in a position where once they force the opposing player to play the ball past them and temporarily lose control of the ball, you can quickly go for that ball in that time frame and get a free touch. Depending on the situation, this can have many different looks, but the main objective as a second man is to try to make a play that sustainably breaks you out of defense. Not just hitting the ball as hard as you can in a position where it's going to be hit right back at you and you're still stuck on defense. To successfully break out of defense, you want to go for that outlet pass we were talking about. That way your first man can continue pushing the ball downfield and extend the play. Also, another thing to recognize is that if you don't make the outlet pass to your first man and they started rotating back to third man, you are now the first man. And if you get challenged before you're able to maneuver the ball out of defense, you can now linger upfield as the outlet pass option for the players behind you. And the goal is to always try to have someone as a passing option out of defense. Moving on to the third man. Similarly to the second man, the third man also has the role of looking for the outlet pass to the first man, because sometimes the third man just has a better angle or is able to get to the ball faster than the second man, depending on how the play develops. The third man's also responsible for reading the play and determining if they would be more beneficial positioned on the backboard or the ground. Essentially, if the opponent has the option of hitting the ball to the backboard and you already have someone on the ground covering the net, you should probably cover the backboard. I got my eye on Timmy and I'm watching, is he gonna decide to go to the backboard or go to the net here? Very often, somebody in my position will not pay attention to the teammate over here. If Timmy goes backboard, a lot of the time, somebody else in my position would also go backboard, just assuming because the ball's in the air, they want to go backboard because that's the best position to be in if you're the next person on this ball. I realize Timmy's on the backboard, so I don't need to also go backboard. You want to cover multiple options. The most important things for successful defense really come down to a good challenge by the first man that forces the opponent to lose possession, followed by a good follow-up from the teammate behind the first man that turns that into a pass upfield or a play that doesn't immediately turn the ball back over to the other team. These roles aren't meant to be assigned to specific players to play throughout the entirety of the game. Rather, each player plays these roles throughout the entire game, constantly shuffling who's doing what. The important part is knowing what your role is, what your job is, what you're supposed to be covering when you're in any of these specific roles. The next part of what makes 3v3 rotation run smoothly and effectively is knowing how to properly space yourself on the field. I'm going to be covering that in the next installment of this 3v3 guide, so if you enjoyed this video, found it useful, or learned something, and you want to catch the next part when it comes out, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell for notifications when the next video drops. And as always, thanks for watching.